What's up everyone, and welcome back to Nexus. It's a modern pipe dream that you'll randomly stumble across something worth millions of dollars in your own home, which you can easily part ways with and become rich and start living the easy life. A bit like people whose happiness relies on their hope that one day they'll win the lottery and won't have to work anymore. But how often do dreams like this actually succeed? Watch this video to find out 10 extremely rare and valuable items you may have in your own home. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get new content similar to this every day. Also, make sure to comment down below letting us know which was your favorite. And for this video, let's see if we can hit the golden like button, which is 1,000 likes, so make sure to drop a like down below. Number 10. If you were born after 2005, you may not actually know what a VHS tape is, because it's a little before that when they were replaced by DVDs, which were succeeded by Blu-rays, and now we have digital downloads in place of all of these. But did you know that some old VHS tapes are actually worth a pretty penny? The issue with these valuable tapes is that they're from unpopular films that were not mass-produced. So any old Disney movies you have in your attic probably aren't even worth more than a couple of cents. Even more interesting than that is that most of these films are also horror movies, which are also rare because they were banned upon their release. The list includes classics nobody has ever heard of, like The Gallery of Horror, proclaimed by its posters to be the world's weirdest movie. Although the original 1981 The Evil Dead is also on this list. Number 9. It's pretty ironic that misprinted and discontinued coins are often worth more than actual coins themselves. Some of these rare coins include a Second World War penny made of steel, which is allegedly worth $10, a quarter made of silver printed from 1932 to 1964, which is worth $65, a quarter from Kansas that reads "In God We Rust" instead of "In God We Trust" because of a grease smudge messing up the pressing machine, worth $100, a $50 with Benjamin Franklin on it rather than John F. Kennedy, worth $125, and finally the priciest, a 2004 Wisconsin quarter that could land you up to $300 from the right buyer. There's all sorts of rare coins aside from those though, like ones made in the UK to commemorate special events like the Olympics, meaning it's always useful to keep unusual or discontinued currency. Number 8. Who knew that someday Pokemon trading cards from the 2000s would be worth more than putting a smile on a kid's face when they got their favorite one? Well, maybe waiting for them to be worth something is the reason so many people collected them. Because these days you can get a decent amount of money selling those cards to proper collectors and online auctions. Lots of the foil cards are worth around $30, going up to $150 for Gold Star cards. Then if you have the full set of all 18 Southern Island cards from way back when, with the original collectible folder too, you can get almost $300 per card. But none of those have anything on the most valuable Pokemon card, the Pikachu Illustrator cards from 1998, which can be sold for $100,000 in mint condition, and still for half that if they're damaged. There are only 5 in existence. Number 7. Anyone who has ever laughed at the parody character comic book guy in The Simpsons will know that to the right people, original comic books can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. And even more than that in sentimental value to some people. The episode where Homer buys a mint condition copy of Spider-Man #1 and tears out the pages and eats them springs to mind. But what are the most valuable comics in the world, and how much do they really go for? Well, Action Comics #1, Superman's first ever comic, is the most valuable comic ever sold, and it went for almost $1.4 million. Some slightly less valuable comics are Detective Comics #27, the first which featured Batman and went for only $10,000 less than Superman's debut. While the first ever Marvel comic, Marvel Comics #1, featured the Human Torch and went for over $1 million less than their biggest rivals. Number 6. Okay, so this one is a little more unlikely to happen to any of us than the previous items on this list are. But it still happened to one lucky couple who found an old Chinese vase just sitting around in a rickety bookcase in a house in northwest London in England. Imagine the surprise of the relatives who inherited the possessions when this porcelain ornament turned out to be an incredibly rare relic from the Qianlong dynasty in the 18th century, which sold at auction in the autumn of 2010 for a whopping £53 million. That's $80 million. The identity of the lucky finders has been kept a secret. But if the auction house had never put a leaflet through the couple's door, then they might never have taken the vase to auction at all. Number 5. The modern economic climate is tricky, and because of things getting more and more expensive, lots of people resort to going to thrift stores and charity shops to get items cheaply. Even more than that are the people who resort to selling to these businesses to try and make a little bit of money, maybe selling some fancy furniture, to buy some cheaper stuff with what's left and make some cash back in the process. So what's the most valuable bit of random furniture you can sell? Well, it happens to be oak furniture. More than that, handmade American oak furniture from the 1900s. I couldn't find an exact figure, but these pieces are alleged to be worth a lot of money. Number 4. This is a bit like the vase again, but if something like this has happened twice, now it could definitely happen again to one of you watching. Remember the charity shops I just mentioned? Well, a Goodwill store in Virginia received in its donation bin in recent years a painting. This painting just so happened to be an incredibly rare painting from the 1800s by Italian painter Giovanni Battista Tortilla. And when it was sold, it went for $12,000. So it's not exactly the $80 million that the vase was, but that's still a sizable amount of money going to good places and people who need it. And to think it wouldn't have been noticed at all if it wasn't for one employee's suspicion that it was worth something. Number 3. When it hit screens in the 1970s, Star Wars was a smash hit and a movie phenomenon. Even today, the franchise is still going strong, and you can get Disney-made licensed Star Wars merchandise from almost every retailer worldwide. It probably won't come as any shock that genuine antique Star Wars toys from 40 years ago are worth a lot, with one Boba Fett selling for £26,000. This Boba Fett was only one piece from a Frenchman's collection, which turned out to be worth £500,000 in the end. So the next time someone tells you to keep your action figures in the boxes because they could be worth something one day, maybe it would be best to listen. Number 2. The rare and genuine Star Wars toys selling for a lot probably didn't surprise anybody. But what might do is that along with the real ones, bootleg Star Wars toys are also worth a small fortune. Because these weird-looking fakes were not mass-produced to the same extent as the officially licensed merchandise. It becomes just as valuable in the modern age. One of them, sold in Turkey and called Uze Headman, has only 3 other copies, and while it doesn't really resemble any Star Wars character, it's still sold for $30,000. A bootleg Russian version of an Imperial AT-AT commander also sold for $6,000 in its original packaging, while a full line of weird Hungarian knockoffs from a 1980 store display could go for $25,000. Funny considering that they weren't worth a thing when they were actually manufactured. Number 1. The last one on this list is probably the one that you were all expecting. Collectible baseball cards. These things are worth a fortune, and anyone could have one lying around in a dusty corner of their house. They've been collected and sold for more than 100 years, and these days professional collectors have collections worth millions and millions of dollars. At the top of this list of valuable cards, you'll find a mint condition Ted Williams from 1954 worth $50,000, while the further down you get, a 1933 Babe Ruth worth $125,000. A 1914 Joe Jackson worth $204, and the most valuable of all is the 1952 Mickey Mantle, which went for $525,000. $500,000 just for a baseball card. Who knew? That was our list of the top 10 extremely valuable and rare items you may have. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit subscribe so you never miss a video in the future, and hit the like button too so we can hit the golden like of 1,000. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace!